Now, if you haven't heard about Anchor, it's the easiest way to make a podcast. So let me explain. First off, it's free. I'm not joking, you guys. The Anchor app, it is free to use. Second, there's creation tools that allows you to record and edit your podcast right from your phone or computer. Now that's awesome, isn't it? Third, Anchor will distribute your podcast for you so it can be heard everywhere, you guys, on Spotify, Google Podcasts, Apple Podcasts, and so many more platforms. Fourth, you can make money from your podcast with no minimum relationship. Now, is that awesome, you guys, or what? That's just terrific. And finally, it's everything you need to make a podcast in one place. So I have another podcast with Anchor, and I'm just loving Anchor so much. I love it. It's so very easy to use, guys. So why don't you download the free Anchor app today or go to anchor.fm to get started. What's up, you guys, and welcome to the official podcast of Damian Talks Education. So listen up. I am here to talk about all things education on my podcast. So get prepared for some realness and honesty of education as I walk you down through various of topics that's happening in the education world with some amazing guests, to sharing stories relating to education and so much more, because I got you covered with education. So join me on this journey of education with me. Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of Damian Talks Education. So today I have another guest, so let me tell you guys all about this person who coaches the head coach of basketball cross country and is also a sixth grade teacher who teaches social study, and this is his second year of teaching. So everyone, welcome on to the podcast, Mr. Gary Cooper. Welcome.
Hey, thanks for having me.
Yes, and also joining me as my guest co-host is the co-host of Future Educators Talk, the host of his own show, Let's Frett About Education, and is one of my good friends. So everyone, welcome back to the podcast, Andrew Frett. Welcome back, Andrew.
Yes, good to be back on your show.
Yes, so glad to have you guys both on. So let's get started here with you, Mr. Cooper. Why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Well, again, Mr. Cooper, Coach Cooper, whichever one you prefer. I'm from the middle of the map. I'm from Kansas, Wichita to be exact. And the biggest city that we have in Kansas is Wichita. I'm in my second year of teaching. I do teach middle school. I teach sixth grade social studies. It's been a very interesting year with all these changes that's been going on. But, I took it on head first and I've been doing just fine. I will be graduating with my second undergrad here in May. I am currently in what is called the TAP program here at Wichita. I go to Wichita State University. I'm in the TAP program. It's a teacher apprentice program. And so I'll be finishing up my bachelor's of education here come May. And so my next goal is to get into a master's program. Hopefully I can get it to one of these HBCUs here in the United States. That is a goal of mine. And so I've been accomplishing some things these last few years. And so hopefully I can get this done.
Yes. So I want to ask you this here. What inspired you to want to become an educator in the first place? Did it quite run down in your family? Did someone influence you to get into this field? I just want to know what inspired you to teach.
My inspiration came from my mother, actually.
Okay.
My mom is very educated. She's been in education for over 20 plus years. And so, kind of just being around her and, going to her classroom as a young kid and being able to sit in her classroom and kind of just see the things that she does and being able to impact the child's life in a positive way. She taught social studies also. And so it was kind of kind of in me to kind of take that route. So she's definitely been a huge inspiration to me when it comes to education. And then also, I have a cousin that teaches here at Stuckey with me. Before I became a teacher, I still worked here at Stuckey. This is my 4th year here. And the first 2 years, I was a paraeducator. I worked in what is called the PBS program. And so my cousin was already here teaching too. He taught 7th grade, I believe, at the time. And so to be able to see a Black man, an African-American man, that was close to me, and kind of see the things that he was able to do in the classroom and the connection that he was able to have with students, that was also a huge inspiration. And so when the opportunity arose, I was able to take advantage, and here I am today trying to inspire just like they did to me.
Yeah, absolutely. So right now we are still in this pandemic, and there are a lot of things that need to be done into our education system, so many. So if you could possibly do anything of how we can improve our education system, what would you possibly do first to fix it?
I think the first thing that I would do is provide more training for my white colleagues. Here in Wichita, well, at least at the school that I'm at, we're a predominantly Black we have predominantly Black students. And so I think training for my white colleagues would be the first thing that I would do. And I say that because there's a gap between the white educators and the Black students, especially with everything that's going on. I think, the training and, kind of talking to them about how to handle our Black students is definitely needed more than anything right now. Because it's been times, where I've had some of my colleagues, come ask me like, how they should handle a situation. And I feel like with the proper training that, they would be able to handle those situations without coming to a Black educator.
Right.
Like, I don't mind them coming to ask me, I would prefer they do that, but I feel like if we had more trainings for, my white colleagues and how to handle our African American students, like that would be huge. I think that is like one of the most important things. And I've really been very concerned about African American students. Like, I have a great relationship with the ones that I come across on a day-to-day basis, but it's like, I want my colleagues to be able to handle them just as well as I can. And so I think that would be the first thing that I would fix is, just the trainings for them.
Absolutely, absolutely. And Andrew, correct me on this. I believe onto our podcast, we had a guest who explained this further. Am I right, Andrew?
Yeah, we did. I do believe, if I'm not mistaken, either this season, either season 4 or season 3, where I guess really did really explain it more in depth about it. And so he basically put the nail on nail on the head on that one. But yeah, I do have a question though, for Coach Cooper. You did mention that you are in the TAP program. Can you explain to us a little bit more about that program?
Well, the TAP program, we have a few alternative routes that you can take to become a teacher here in Wichita. And so the one that I took was the TAP program, which is the Teacher Apprentice program. And it basically says that I already have a degree because I graduated with a psychology degree. And so it basically says that I have a degree and that I want to seek another degree. And so they put you through this program, which basically it teaches you how to be a teacher, or it helps you become a teacher by teaching you the necessary things that you need to do to run your own classroom. And so once you are done with the program, you are licensed. Actually, while you're in the program, you can apply to become a licensed educator. And so for me, it was kind of a blessing and a curse, because I don't think I was really ready to become a teacher. Like, I knew I wanted to be one. And so, once the administration here found out that I had gotten into the program, my principal she's not here anymore, but the principal that was here last year, she made things happen so that I can get inside the classroom. And so she pretty much asked me, what do you want to teach? What grade levels can you teach? And I was like, well, I can only teach sixth grade. She's like, well, what subject do you want to teach? And I was like, oh, social studies probably would be the one that I would go to. And so she was like, okay, well, give me a few days. I'm gonna work some magic and, try to make something happen for you. And a couple of days later, she was able to move some people around and put me in this position. And so the curse comes because I wanted to be an educator, but I didn't think it was going to happen that quick. And so, it's been a handful trying to go through this program and teach at the same time, because I was really learning on the go. I think if I could have redid it again, I probably would have went through the program first and then applied to be a teacher. But then again, it's helped me out as a professional, because, I think I would have rather have learned on the go. It makes things a lot easier, especially when doing assignments for school, because I go through it on a day-to-day basis. And so I was able to put myself in those positions when we were talking about certain things, or when I was trying to learn about the IEPs in the program. It was like, well, I do that at school. And so it's a gift and a curse when it comes to going through the program. But it's a 2-year program, and I've had some success with it. So I'm fortunate to be in this position, and I'm almost done. So
it's kind of like a beginning teacher development.
Yeah,
For the program.
pretty much.
Okay. Right. And like you said, you always knew that you wanted to become an educator, but it just happened so quickly for you. And me and Andrew, he could probably agree with me on here. Like, now we have our very own podcast of where we are future educators in the making, and and on our podcast we talk about topics that educators should be talking about. And I didn't know at this point in my life, like right now I am a college student, I still can't believe it, and it's going by so quickly. Like, in a few minutes I'm gonna be an educator, which I'm so very excited about. But this is all like happening all so fast with me. What about you, Andrew?
I don't think it's gonna go for me personally. I don't think it's gonna go fast, because again, I'm not in college, not yet. Because right now I'm working to save up so that I can go to college, even though I was supposed to go to college like a couple years ago. But I decided to get a job and make sure I save enough money so that I can go to college in the fall, so that once I do get into college in the fall, I'll have enough money to, pay all the tuition, books, and all that, so that I'll be ready to go. Because by the time I graduate, probably with a associate's degree and probably transfer over, I will know the basics. Basically, I will know some of it, but not all of it. But once I transfer to that 4 year and get my bachelor's degree, I'll be ready.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, Mr. Cooper, I don't know if today was your first day back from winter break. Now, if it was, how was it for you? And is your school how is it dealing with distant learning and in-person learning as well?
Yes, today was my first day back. I actually liked it. I I love my students, and so I've missed them. It's been 2 weeks since I haven't seen their faces, um, and so it was a joy to see them back inside a classroom setting. Uh, I think they were just as excited to see me as I was to see them because they could not wait to tell me how their break went. They couldn't wait to tell me what they got for Christmas and what they did um, during the break. And so it wasn't as bad as I thought it was going to be. I was excited to see them. And then, once 8 o'clock hit and I started those meetings and, uh, everything worked out just fine. And so it was pretty cool being back today. As far as the distant learning, we don't do in person. We haven't did it all year.
Okay.
We have been remote. We've been online. At first, I hated it. I did not like it because I'm not big on technology. I know how to use technology, but as far as trying to teach it, uh, it was a huge adjustment. And that's because last year, I learned how to be a teacher.
Yeah.
And so I learned how to teach a certain way. I didn't want to change the way that I was teaching. And so I
Mhm.
kind of get why some teachers kind of stay in that same way of teaching and, because you don't want to change. Once you learn something, you have it set in stone. Like that's how you want to continue doing it. Uh, and so I was kind of like that too. And I just did not want to learn how to uh, use technology whatsoever. I already used technology in college uh, with the program that I'm in. And I was like, you know what? There's no way in this world I'm going to be able to teach online. And so, at first it was a struggle. It was a huge struggle. And that's because nobody really knew how to do it.
Exactly.
Uh, and so, this has definitely been a growing year for me. I feel like I've grown as an educator because last year, when I first started my first year uh, here in Kansas, we usually have two teachers that teach the same content. I'm not sure how it is in other states, but I know here it's like that. And so the teacher that I had last year as my partner, she had been in the district for quite some time. She had been teaching for quite some time, and so everything that I got came from her. And so this year I got somebody brand new that she came from elementary. She had never taught social studies, and so that was a huge adjustment. And she really wasn't good with technology, and so it was like I really didn't have a choice but to learn how to use technology. And so that's why I say I've grown a lot as an educator this year. Now I'm probably a pro. I love it. I don't even know if I would want to come back to the classroom uh,
Mhm.
because it's just so many cool resources and cool things out there that I never even knew about until this year. And so I'm loving the remote learning. With me coaching, I still get to see my student athletes. They have to come in, and so it's a good balance because although I would like to be with my students, uh, my student athletes, they fill that void that I have with having students in person because I'm able to, although we're in practice, we still have I still have time where I can socialize with them. Uh, I'm very involved in the community, so I'll still see my students uh, pretty much on a regular. So
Yeah.
it's been so far it's been pretty good. It was a struggle at first, but like I said, I've grown to like this new style of learning. I think it's going to be like this from this point on. I don't think they'll ever change it. I think this is a new way of learning.
Yeah,
Okay.
absolutely. Like I
Okay.
said in the I think one of the episodes that me and Damien did, it's gonna be it's not like last year where teachers does, face to face in classroom learning. Now it's virtual.
Mhm.
Now they have to learn soon now they have to figure out a way to contact with their students
Yeah,
virtually. Now they have to use more technology than ever. You know, they have to
Yeah.
email the students. Now they have to use more technology tools to
Mhm.
use for their students. So it's a lot more, I would say, technology based uh, for teachers this year than last year. Because last year, yeah, they get a little bit of technology tools, you know, like Kahoot, Canvas, and
Mhm.
stuff like that. But now it's like a whole lot more. You know, you have to log into Zoom, and then you have to present your screen, and then you have to use another monitor to, you know, check your emails. Like there's a whole lot of stuff that teachers are doing this year.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah, and it is, and you know, in a way, I kind of look at it as a good thing for students because once I got to college, I didn't know how to have classes online, and
Mm,
so we have students that's my son is learning this in elementary. He's learning how to go to school on the computer, and so you know, if he once he gets to college, I'm sure that he'll probably want to just stick with just going to online because it's so much easier
mhm,
and
Absolutely.
so it's I had to look at it as a good thing. I know a lot of people at first was kind of like,
mhm.
not really too big on the technology, but it's like when you think about it, I didn't learn. When I think about it, I didn't learn how to use. I didn't know how to take an online class until I got to college, and so these students now they're learning in kindergarten. My daughter's in pre-K, and she's taking school online, and it's like technology is her world, so it's right up her alley. And so I think it's a good thing for some students, although there are some students that do struggle with the
Yeah.
online learning and they do need to be in person. uh, you know, that's the only downfall about technology and doing this online learning, because I do have students that, you know, that are struggling. uh,
Mhm.
you know, with this being our first year, I really try to show a lot of grace because it's not easy and technology is
Yeah.
not for everybody.
Right.
It was a
Right.
struggle for me to learn how to do it. And so my expectations are not high for my students, especially in the sixth grade. They just left elementary. They really
Mhm.
didn't get the proper, I don't even know what the word I'm looking for, but they didn't get to properly enter into middle school like, you know, previous years. Uh, Most of them have never even been inside of our building. And so, you know, as an educator, like we do have to do a better job at showing some of our students grace with learning this online learning, because some of them do better inside of the classroom setting. But
Right.
unfortunately, with this pandemic going on, it's like we have to do what we can. And so it's kind of my feelings towards this remote learning.
Yeah.
Yeah, and on top of that, you have some students that don't have internet access at home as well. And
Yeah.
Right.
so it's really difficult for them to, you know, to do virtual learning at home. So sometimes that's why they rather have in-person learning so that um because of that. I mean, just imagine if you don't have internet at home, like how in the world are you going to get your classwork done? How in the world are you going to get your homework done? And it's all doing virtually.
Yeah.
Um, so I think that's what needs to be, that's the question that needs to be, it needs to be answered is how's this going to work? Will it be effective with the kids that don't have internet? Like what's the benefits of it? Um, so in my state, right now, in my county, what they're doing right now is they doing remote learning for right now. And I think until the next board meeting, because before they were doing a transition, they were doing A students for in person and then B students for remote learning, and then kind of like a switch, like a
Mhm.
rotation for each day. So I'm wondering if they're going to continue to do that next week, or they're going to go strictly to remote learning next week, because I'm pretty sure almost all, I'm not sure yet, but I'm pretty sure all states right now are doing remote learning as
Yeah.
of right now.
Yeah, well, here in Kansas, we all are doing remote learning. At the beginning of the year, though, elementary had the option. They got to either go in person or they got to um, do remote learning. And I think one of the reasons why they did that is because we didn't have enough technology to pass out to all the students at that time. Uh, Thank God that they were able to give technology out to each student in our district, and we have here in Wichita, I think 259 is the biggest, if not one of the biggest districts in Kansas. And so we were able to provide technology devices to each student in our district, along with internet access. Um, and so there was a point where they had said that middle school and high school would go to like a hybrid type setting, like you were kind of saying, like A and B days, where we'll have like half our students in one day and the other half would be at home. But they would both be online still learning. We'll just have half of them inside the classroom and the other half would be at home. Which I'm glad we didn't go to that, because I think for me, that would have been difficult to do, like a hybrid type learning. Uh, and I say that because, trying to have students inside my classroom and then sitting here at one of my desks and teaching the students online while teaching the students in my classroom, I think that would be a struggle because, for one, I can't be still. And
Mhm.
so I would forget about my students that's on the computer while trying to walk around and help my students that's in my classroom. And so I'm kind of happy we didn't go to that model, and we kind of just stayed with everyone going remote. We have a board meeting next week, and we're supposed to decide what's our next move. I know some of our surrounding districts, they've already said they had students come back today. And so next week is definitely going to be interesting. I'm curious to see, what the things that they do or what changes they make, because it's going to affect not only educators but students too.
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. Now, I want to ask you this here. In a couple more days, in a few days, um, President-elect Joe Biden and Madam Vice President Kamala Harris will enter into the White House, and also Dr. Jill Biden, who is also an educator. So, what are your thoughts on our First Lady, who is an educator, and how do you think once she's in the White House, what changes she will make into our education system?
I'm pretty excited uh, to for her to be in the White House as an educator, and so I'm curious to see the different things that's going to go on um, with her and some of the things that she might want to change.
Yeah.
Uh, I'm kind of new to the politics. I really have stayed away from it just because, like, it just never interests me. And I know that's weird with me teaching social studies, but it just never did. Uh, but I'm starting to get more involved in it because, with Harris becoming the first African American woman as vice president, like, I'm kind of curious to see, how she handles that. And then we have
Yeah.
Dr. Biden as the first lady and kind of seeing what she does with the education part of things. And so it's going to be interesting. I hope that, some changes in our education system will happen. Uh, but, all we can do is wait and kind of see, what she tries to implement.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So now let's shift gear into now talking about racism. Now, 2020 was it was a worse year for all of us, where we got hit with the pandemic, started talking about racism. We had the Black Lives Matter movement, the protests, we had it all. So I want to ask you this here. What does it mean for you right now? And I ask everyone who comes on here, and I ask Andrew this as well. What does it mean for you to be a Black man in America today? where they see us cops, they see us as a threat, as they see us as thugs, as problems. We can't even walk down the street, we can't even jog, we can't run, we can't possibly do nothing, because if we do those things, they see us as we are doing something wrong. And then you have people are recording us, and it's just insane. So what does it mean for you to be a Black man in America today into the new year?
Uh, it means a few things. For one, being a Black man in America is hard. It is hard. And I don't think people realize how hard it is to be a Black man in America, a Black educator at that. Because, when you look at me, especially if you come to look at me, while I'm at my setting at work, like I look like an average Black man out on the street. I wear the Jordans. I have a hat on. I have a fitted hat on. Like I don't look like the typical educator that likes to dress up all the time. Like, I have my days where I do dress up, but I look like my brothers. And so
Yeah.
it's scary, like, because people don't know what I do. It's like you're judging me and you don't even know what I do. And I don't like that you judge me and you haven't even had a conversation with me.
Right.
And it's more scary because I'm raising a son. Like I'm raising an African-American son, and I keep him away from, a lot of things, but it's like at any moment, he may not be with me, and he may just be out with his friends, and they may just be at the park. And my son is as quiet as can be, but it's like some racist person, they don't know him. And so they just automatically assume that they just put this label on him without even having a conversation with him. And I don't like that. And I see it all the time. I deal with racism all the time, especially with parents. Like I deal with it, and it's like, have a conversation with me first. Talk to me first. Get to know Mr. Cooper, get to know Coach Cooper before you place this title or you label me as something that I'm not. And it's like, and it's scary because it's like at any moment I can be those African-American males that were gunned down or that were killed for for no reason. And it's like, it frustrates me, like even thinking about it, like it when you even think about the things that we've been through, and it's like, why are you even doing this? And I think one of the reasons why another reason why I got into education is because I read and listen to a lot of W. Du Bois. And he believed that, education is what puts us in leadership positions. And so, I, I I live my life by that, by trying to get as much education as possible so that I can be in some type of leadership. And so those racist people that look down on me, or they have so much bad things to say about African American, is like, well, you can say whatever you want, but I'm educated. And so, I hate it. There's really nothing that you can do. I mean, there's things that you can do to prevent it, but I try to do the right thing. I kind of try to stay out the way, because at the end of the day, I do have an African American son, and Lord, if anything happens to him, I don't care who you are, like I'm going crazy. And so, it sucks that they label us as such these thugs and these bad people, and it's like, we're really not. It's like, just talk to us, have conversations with us, and you will see that we are just as equal as you are. And it's a sad thing that they don't view us as that.
Exactly. I feel you exactly on that as well. Now, we are running out of time here onto this Zoom, so we will continue this discussion here. And once we come back on, I will ask you what conversations should we be having with our white friends now about racism, so they can get like a understanding of where we are, because they never been in our shoes before and possibly will never be because they're white and we're black. So I'm gonna ask you once we come back on what conversations we should have with them.
Okay.
So welcome back. So as I was saying, I want to hear from you, and to also again from you, Andrew. What do you also think of this as well? What conversations should we be having with our white friends now about racism, the protest, Black Lives Matter movement, so they can get an understanding of us, because they never been in our shoes before and they quite never will. They say they have been in our shoes before, but they never, and they quite will ever be. So I'm gonna start with you, Mr. Cooper. What conversations should we have with them?
I think for me, it's just acknowledging that it exists to this day.
Right.
I believe that some of them are just so naive that they don't want to believe it, but it's actually going on. Like, racism still exists. Uh,
Mhm.
and I also want them to be okay with uh, African Americans feeling a way about racism.
Mhm.
And, us standing up for ourselves, uh, there's nothing wrong with that. I
Yeah.
mean, I want them to put themselves in our shoes. I mean, if you're getting picked on for, so long and things are not changing, and we talk about change all the time and nothing's not changing, and we're still getting gunned down and we're still getting killed, like, put yourself in our shoes. Wouldn't you be angry? It doesn't matter if uh, we're related to them or not. We don't have to have any relation to them. They look like me. And so I really just want them to acknowledge what is going on, and and you know, I kind of from there, that's where the conversation will start. Like, if you're going to deny what's going on and you have a problem what's going on, then off tops, I'm not even going to engage myself into a conversation with you.
Mhm.
If you can
Mhm.
acknowledge what is going on, and can, you know, you see, or you will never feel how we feel.
Right.
So, but you at least see what's going on. And if you can see and you can acknowledge, that's not right. And uh, that's where our conversation can start. It's been a few times where, you know, I've had, some of my white friends, they want to get in those conversations with me, but, if you're not going to
Mhm.
see that there's a problem in America, then, our conversation is going to stop right there. Like, we really don't need to be friends, because I don't need to, you see it. I mean, with
Yeah.
everybody has camera phones these days, everybody's seeing what's going on. And so if you can acknowledge what's going on, and, then we can have a conversation. But if you are just not, and you kind of, I guess it really depends on how our conversation starts. But if, like I said, if you can acknowledge what is going on and you see what's going on and you know that it's not okay, then I can have a conversation with you. But if your conversation starts out with, well, he shouldn't have did, you know what, I'm just gonna stop our conversation right there. We don't even need to be associates. We don't even need to be friends, and I'm just gonna let it be. I'm not gonna engage myself in that conversation, because I'm gonna get pissed. I'm gonna get mad, and
Right.
there's no telling what I'm going to do. And so I'm just going to stop you right there and just go on about my day, because at the end of the day, acknowledging what is going on is big for me. And so if our conversation don't start with that, then there's nothing we need to talk about. And I
Mm.
don't care what you want to know. It's nothing that needs to be talked about.
Exactly. I totally agree with you. And
Absolutely.
I had this discussion with Andrew. Um, if all of my friends out there, if you want to have a conversation with me, it's fine. Let's have it together. But before you come to me first, here's what you need to do. You have to do your homework first. You have
Mm,
to know all the right facts, information, the current state of the world, what's happening right now. And if you come to me pouring out false crap and information, I'm going to stop it right there and let you leave, because
okay.
I'm going to have it the right way with you. And like you said, I'm going to start getting pissed, get angry, and who knows where the conversation is going to end up. So I'm going to just let you hit the door, because I'm going to have it the correct way with you first. So please do your homework first before you come with me. Andrew, I cut you off a little bit.
Oh, no, you're fine. You're fine. Basically the same thing that you just said. I mean, do your homework first, then you can speak to me. But otherwise, like y'all two said, know your facts first. Know them first before you talk to me. Because if you don't have your information correct, or if you don't have, if you didn't do your research, then again, I just can't talk to you because you didn't do your research correctly. You didn't find the right information
Yeah,
to talk about. So I can't really like I'm not interested in this conversation because you didn't find the correct information. So the most important thing is do your research, do a little bit of digging. If it takes you about 2 to 3 days, that's fine. But just do your research before you talk to me or talk to us, actually,
yeah,
because we know what it's like. We've been through, uh, as most common saying, um, done. What's the saying? Um, been there, done that. If you can relate to that, that's perfectly fine.
mhm,
But if you're just saying, "Oh, I agree," "Oh, this and this and this," but you're not actually, but you don't have a story to relate to us, then why you're saying it? You're just saying that for clout. So it's like, what's the point?
Right.
yeah. And with me, especially if you call yourself a friend of mine, and
Yeah.
you want to have that uncomfortable conversation, well, I'm really going to make you uncomfortable because if you want to come talk to me, let's say we talk about the Trayvon Martin situation, I'm not going to use Trayvon's name. I'm going to use my son's name because that could have been him. And so, if, like you said, if you don't come with those facts and you don't know what I'm going through, and I use my son's name, and you want to have that conversation with me, if you say the stupidest thing to me, doesn't matter what it is, if I don't agree with it, then words is going to be out the window because at the end of
Mm-hmm.
the day, that was somebody's son, that was somebody's brother, that was somebody's nephew. Like,
Mm-hmm.
that could have been my son. And it's like, you don't want to have, if you don't want to come with your facts, you don't want to see, state the obvious, then I'm not going to have that conversation with you because I'm not going to use, if we're going to have a conversation about racism, I'm putting my son's name in there, I'm putting my daughter's name in there. And so if you can't see what I see with using my children's names, then that's the conversation we don't need to have. You're not ready to have that conversation with me. And it's a lot of people that's not ready for that conversation. It's a lot
Yes.
of people that don't want to believe that racism still exists, and it does. And it's like, you don't have to go through the things that I have to go through on a day-to-day basis. You don't have to deal with the type of stuff that my kids that are in elementary have to deal with. And I mean, we might think that, oh, they're just in elementary, racism won't exist to them. It does. Like, it does. People don't care. People are crazy, and thank God. I mean, we're about to have a new president because uh, with one of the most important people in the world being okay with racism, it's like people are okay with being racist nowadays, and it's like it yeah, that I'm trying to keep my mouth censored right now. So
Yes. It's totally fine. It's totally fine. You can say whatever you want to say. I mean, but yeah, it is really is the truth. Now, what have you started having conversations with your black son?
I have expect my son definitely because my son he's about to be 10, and so uh, this has probably been the time that I need to, uh, especially growing up black in America. Like, I need to have that conversation with him, and at first, I was a little nervous because I never really had that conversation with my dad. Of course, I've had it with my mom, you know, but my dad, I never had that conversation. And it's like now I need to. I would feel a way because I have that conversation with my students at school about racism. And so what type of man would I be if I couldn't even have that conversation with my son? And so I made sure I have that conversation with him. Like, you know, you got to be careful. Make sure you have your phone on you all the time. Make sure you're not where you're not supposed to be. If you're supposed to be at that location, if you tell me you're supposed to be there, be there. Don't be out doing anything stupid because people don't care. They will do anything. They will give. They don't even have to have a reason to pull a gun out on you. They don't have to have a reason to call you the N-word. They'll just do it. And we've had that conversation plenty of times. Like, so he knows what it's like to be Black and American. And I thank God for his mother too, because she's also had those conversations. And so, you know, I thank God that, you know, he protects him even when he's not with me and his mom. But it's like, it's scary to even think that something like that could possibly happen to him at any moment. And so I try to make sure that he is close to me as possible. He is texting, he is calling me throughout the day. I need to know where he's at because you just never know. Like, people are crazy these days, and the more that I'm getting deeper into education and I'm learning more about history and things that are going on, the more I learn how crazy racist people are. Like, I get an email to my phone every day and it tells me about some type of case that was going on in the 1800s or the early 1900s, and it's stupid stuff. I was reading about a case. I don't remember what the case was, but pretty much what happened was there was a 17-year-old boy that was working at a shop. He was working at like a grocery store, and he wanted to do a nice gesture for everyone that worked there. And he sent everyone in his job a Christmas card. And there was one that he sent one to a white girl, and all he said was something like he thought that she was cute. Something so not even worth getting killed over. And so when I was reading about that story, and I'm like, man, like, here this kid is, he's 17 years old. Like, he doesn't know. I mean, he's not thinking anything of it by telling a white girl she's cute. And he ends up getting tied up and have to jump into a river, and he dies because the father of the girl, they went and kidnapped him in the middle of the night. And it was like, it's pathetic that something like that took a kid to death. And it's like, you know, the more I read about these stuff that was going on with, you know, racism and white people and what they were doing to us, is like, the closer I just want to be with my son, the closer I want to just hug him and make sure he's with me at all time. I mean, I know I'm not going to be able to protect him, you know, every step of the way, but that's not going to stop me. Like, and it don't matter how old he gets. Like, as a father, like, I feel like that is my job, to protect him until he is old, even if I'm older, way older than he is, like, you know, because I just don't trust racism, and I don't trust racist people, and people are so bold these days. They just do not care. And it's like, when I think about racism, the first thing that comes to mind is my kids. Like, I mean, my daughter's young, but once she starts to get a little bit older and she starts to moving around more on her own, it's like, I'm going to be just as protective over her as I am my son, is because I don't trust people. And, you know, we look at our government, and they've made racism okay. Like, they don't frown upon it. They make it okay. And so we're definitely starting to identify more who these racist people are, and they do not care. I've even having to deal with racism as an educator, and it's pretty sad. So,
Yeah. So I want to ask you this here. Everyone's been talking about, I've been looking all over social media and also on the news about standardized testing. They want to defund standardized testing. What is your take on that?
Well, we don't do, I haven't done it in social studies, so, uh, but I think our students are so far behind that,
Mhm.
I don't, I don't, I don't think I wouldn't mind it because they already deal with a lot what's going on now in this world. That's just more pressure with these testings that they have to take, and so I think that's would be my views on it. Uh, students are learning. Like,
Yes.
don't get that wrong. But with these standardized tests, I feel like we're putting pressure on the educators to get them to a level of success, but then we're also putting twice as much pressure on them because we want them to get to this level. Like, of course,
Mhm.
we want all of them to pass, but it's like we're putting all this pressure on them to get a certain score that, I just feel like it's way too much pressure on students. And so I wouldn't be opposed to it, and I just wouldn't. That's just me, though.
What about you, Andrew? What do you think of it?
I don't think they should do standardized testing because, like Coach Cooper said, they already deal with enough. They
Right.
already behind, and for them to take a standardized test, I think that's crazy.
Yeah, and then with the school year last year ending the way it did, and then with this new remote learning, is like, let's just teach them. At this point, let's just teach them.
Exactly. Because
Stop.
I believe, oh, sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off.
No, no, go ahead.
I believe that an educator or anyone should not label a student as a score because they are not defined as that. They are more than just a number, a score on any test that they take, standardized testing, and of course, test whatever. So I don't like the idea of how some educators will label their students as a score. That is just plain ridiculous to me. And why do you think uh, some educators do that? They label their students as a number and not as individuals.
Well, I agree with you, and we've kind of shied away from the scores. We This year is our first year. We started what's called standard reference grading, and so our grading system is a little bit different, uh, which I'm still trying to figure out if I like it or not, because now, like, students have to reach targets, uh, which essentially is good, uh, because as long as as long as they understand the foundational skills, they should be able to reach the target. And so I like that because I don't really have to give any type of tests. Uh, like, I can have a conversation with them, and if they can explain to me the religion of the ancient Egyptians, then they know what they're talking about. And so we've been doing the standard reference grading this year, and so it's kind of good and bad. I guess I don't know. I guess that's a whole nother different thing.
Right. So Andrew, you have any final thoughts?
Not at this time.
Well, I would like to thank you, Mr. Cooper, for coming on to my podcast. Thank you so much. What a great discussion we all had together. So thank you so much.
No problem. Thank you guys for allowing me to come. It's not much that you get to talk to people in Kansas that have podcasts about education. So uh, I'm glad that I were able to find you on there. I've been trying to utilize Twitter a lot because I found a lot of Black educators, and I've definitely been inspired by the people that I do follow on there.
Yes, thank you. So where can my listeners follow you on social media?
So my Twitter account is Gary D. Cooper 3. You can follow me on there. I'm trying to get more into the Twitter. I know at the beginning of the year, one of my administrators was telling me, like, hey, man, you need to get on Twitter. And I was like, well, I don't know if I want to do that. And then I got on and I've loved it so far because I'm so inspired by all the Black educators that I've been able to reach out to, ask questions. It's a beautiful thing to see people that look like me in the field that I am in, And so, yeah, if you want to follow me at Gary D. Cooper 3 on Twitter, you want to send me a message, have a conversation with me. I'm learning a lot more about education day in and day out. And so it's been a wonderful thing. And I wish you guys success on your journey as becoming educators. Don't get discouraged. I know times it will seem very stressful. I've been there, but being able to help students is what keeps me going. And to me, it doesn't matter if you're Black, white, Mexican, red. It doesn't matter what the student is. Like those relationships that you have with those students is what will keep you going. And so continue doing what you're doing. It is a blessing to see that you guys want to get in education because there's not a lot of Black educators.
Right.
It's not, and we are needed so much in this field. It is ridiculous how badly we are needed in this field. You will learn that once you get in this field, kids will gravitate towards you so easily. Man, they will gravitate towards you, and it is a beautiful thing. And so I wish you guys success once again. I'm excited to continue to watch your growth as educators and to watch the more that you learn, the more excited you're going to get. And so don't get discouraged, Andrew. I know that you're working and you're trying to get into education. I would advise you to look out to some of those districts that you are in. They have alternative routes that you can go to become an educator. I know here in the Wichita area, one of the programs that you can get in here, the school district pays for it. And I know it's a few districts that do that. And so make sure you're reaching out to those school districts because there are programs that will help you become an educator and they'll pay for it. And so keep doing what you're doing. God's going to bless both of you guys in the end.
Thank you. Thank you so much for those words. Yes, thank you. And then also thank you again, Andrew, for joining me as my guest co-host. You guys will see him more on the show later on, so stay tuned for that. So I just want to thank both of you guys, and you guys take care, and I wish you all the blessings into the new year. And I will see you guys back soon for another episode. So until then, take care of yourself and be blessed, you guys, to be safe.
All right. Thank you.